Well, the massive storms that shook California at the beginning of this year allowed many in the state to automatically be granted tax extensions. However, that's only causing problems for the U.S.'s balance sheet as it approaches the deadline to raise the debt ceiling. So for more on this, I want to bring in Julie Weil. She's here in Studio 57 with us. She's a tax reporter for the Washington Post. So this is interesting because we always imagine that the government has this massive slush fund. And so, so few people in California need an extension. But clearly it's more than a few people in California. So explain the connection for us.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. First of all, you're right. It's more than a few people. This is unusual. Every year there are natural disasters. Nowadays there are more and more each year because of climate change. And when there are natural disasters, the IRS gives people an automatic extension to file their taxes in case, your basement was flooded and you don't have your documents and it's going to take you some more time.
Yeah.
So this year, they gave an extension to almost everyone in the state of California because of these storms that happened in the past few months. And the state of California alone is responsible for something like 16% of all the taxes anyone in the country pays because there's so many people in California and there are so many wealthy people in California. So normally this wouldn't matter. The government gets its money, but it gets it a few months late. But right now, as you know, we're facing down this debt ceiling deadline. All the money coming in and what day it comes in really matters all of a sudden.
Right.
So game it out for us. What would happen if things don't come to pass?
Well, the tax deadline's already passed. Most of us have paid our taxes in April. And the estimate of how much the government didn't get from California is about $100 billion.
Wow. So that's, we're talking real money here that is used to fund, the list is long if people want to know what they are, but it's not an insignificant amount of money.
Right. If you count up how much money the government spends every single day just to keep the government running, that $100 billion, that's almost a week.
Wow.
And right now, adding another week would help the people in Washington who are negotiating.
And, there is some sort of speculation that if things don't go as well as they've always gone, which is a deal happens, that what will happen is that the government will kind of be living paycheck to paycheck, bill to bill, instead of sort of paying off things ahead of time. Then they'll ask each department, well, what do we owe today? Which means that, every little bit of money that comes in every single day is going to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So the IRS was set to receive $80 billion in funding. We've learned here at CBS News that some of that could be shifted elsewhere as part of this debt ceiling deal. And what sort of impact would that have?
Well, the thing about the IRS is that unlike most federal programs where the money is really just going out, the IRS, you sort of have to spend money to make money. And depending who you ask, for every dollar that you give the IRS to hire more agents who are going to conduct more audits of very wealthy people, find lots of taxes that people aren't paying, maybe for every dollar you spend, you make $4. Or, different experts have different estimates. But cutting $10 billion from the IRS, like we're hearing they might be cutting, that might, in the end, increase the deficit.
Wow.
Yep.
So what's interesting about this story, and I think why we're highlighting it, is because I think that, we often, when people, the average American is sitting at home watching these politicians and engage in this political theater about the debt ceiling, when the real life consequences are more immediate, the impact on people's lives can be felt almost immediately if this deal doesn't happen.
And it feels like a bottomless pit of money,
but
because we're talking about billions.
Right.
And you're like, surely there's enough to go around.
Right, but there really isn't at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Julie Weil, great reporting. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.